everyone. Hello, Olivier. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Yeah,
How are you doing? Well, thank you so much, Brian, for the amazing introduction. Thank you so much, everyone that is listening to this session. And thank you so much, Elizabeth, Olivier, for accepting the invitation from Launch Metrics to speak at Performance Summit. So today we have like 45 minutes in which we will be talking about seeking operational excellence, how fashion needs to adopt MarTech. I'm really excited about this conversation because I mean, in the previous meetings that we had, we already had like a lot of thoughts and sharings and so on. So I think it's going to be really, really insightful. Okay, I would like to start kicking off with some stats and some numbers. I was like researching the other day to prepare today's conversation, and I found some stats from G2 that were quite interesting about the topic we are going to be talking about today. And the stats that I found say that the 2022 marketing technology landscape, so 972 vendors removed and 2,900 added, for a total of 9,932 vendors in 49 categories. The overall MarTech landscape grew 24% since 2020, and the largest increases in growth were in content and experience with 34%, commerce and sales with 24%, and management with 67%. So almost 10,000 MarTech that we have today that fashion and lifestyle companies can count with today. So now I would like to start like the conversation by like discussing a little bit like today's reality of like consumers. Like we are living in this omni-channel, omni-device space in which the consumer moves from the physical store to the virtual environment, then from Instagram to the gamification app of their mobiles, and then from there to the store. So at the same time, we also know, and this is something that we repeat like so many times as part of the Launch Metrics corporate pitch, that today we need 10 times more touch points to sell to a consumer because the life cycle is much more longer since the beginning of a relationship with the brand until they buy something. So therefore, as a companies, as a like fashion, retail, beauty, lifestyle companies, they have a lot of challenges with this. So this diversification, it's really challenging as part of their day by day. And I'm going to start with you, Olivier. So Sprinklr offers like a technology that covers many of those scenarios that companies face today. So I want to ask you, like, what does it mean, this technology integration concept, and why is it so important for global organizations when implementing MarTech?
Thanks, Gina. Well, it is important because, as you said, increasing number of touch points means increasing number of customer journeys. And we customers are more demanding, more impatient, and less forgiving than ever. So that means we have a tough challenge. Brands, to face this challenge, have purchased over the years numbers of different tech solutions. You know, you mentioned a huge number of possibilities before. But in mostly brand-centric organizations, siloed teams in siloed departments, in business units, within geographies, have purchased solutions in full autonomy that are siloed basically, and that sit next to each other. So, you know, they are overlapping for the most part. And in marketing alone, I've heard that an organization has an average of 91 point solution. So we call it the point solution chaos. You know, on top of the fact that it creates, of course, security, governance, and privacy issues, the risk for organizations, the real problem is for the client, because if you have data sitting in siloed tools, it leads to a fragmented view of the customer, an inability to understand the customer's behavior and needs in real time. What a paradox, right? When we know that brands now are really competing on experience, that experience is the new brand. We hear that all the time. The only way to win is to differentiate through seamless experiences. So, as you said, what Sprinklr offers in this ecosystem is really to enable organizations to shift to a customer-centric model. How? Well, through a unified platform encompassing a lot of those different point solutions. So an enterprise can listen to, reach, engage with their customers on every channel. And when I mean every channel, it's of course the social media. Sprinklr was born in social media, but also live chat, messaging apps, SMS, email, web form, even the phone. So it's going beyond technology integration. It's really technology consolidation with the end goal of providing a seamless customer experience. And on top of this, of course, you need to integrate not with dozens of tools, but to have this unified front office platform integrated with a few big players in your tech stack, like the systems of records, the CRM, because what you need for seamless experiences is all of the critical information you have already on your customer at hand to maximize the relevance of every interaction, every touch point.
That's interesting, and well, I'm taking notes. I love to take notes because at the end of the session, I would like to get some insights and takeaways. 91 solutions, and you say the point solution cows. That's the concept.
Yeah, and 91 solution in marketing alone. Otherwise, it's hundreds.
Yeah, and it's overwhelming just feeling that. Again, you have 91 solutions as a single company, so and you need to connect the dots between all of them. So my next question is for you, Elizabeth, because I mean you're a marketer like I am, and we know how challenging it is today to impact the consumer from a marketing perspective. But then, if you think especially in medium-sized fashion brands, for example, in some cases they are targeting a very young consumer, and we know that young consumers are these digital native players that are almost everywhere. But of course, it's really hard to be everywhere as a brand. So I would like to ask you, how can fashion brands, how can lifestyle brands face this challenge of reaching the consumers through all of those different voices, platforms, tools, channels, without becoming an overwhelming task?
It's such a good question, Gina. And I think it comes down to really thinking about not necessarily being everywhere, because you're right, that can be extremely overwhelming. There are so many touch points, so many ways that a person can be interacting with a brand. It really comes down to the merchant, the brand knowing their unique customer and what their unique customer's likely touch points are, right? What are your customers' natural touch points? Where are they likely to seek out or be exposed to information relevant to your brand, relevant to your product types, things like that. This is really why it comes down to having a very well integrated e-commerce hub, right? So if you're selling online, if you're in the digital commerce space already, think of your e-commerce platform as your hub. And when I say, a well-integrated e-commerce hub, it's something that enables ease of visibility through multiple channels, through the channels that your target customers are likely to be interacting with, right? Whether it's marketplaces, certain social platforms, if they're looking at TV ads too, who knows, right? But really thinking through, how can my core platform effectively support my connectivity to whatever channels that my customer is likely to be exposed to what I'm doing through, right? One of the values of having a well-connected e-commerce hub, one that's really good about giving you key data and information, one that again has connection points with varying integration channels. The value of that is that it allows you to stay inside your one e-commerce hub, right? To then still be able to manage all of those touch points and channels and integrations. That's part of the overwhelm, like you spoke to, is needing to be on any number of tools and platforms to stay abreast of something, right? But if you can centralize and aggregate as much of your key connection points through your core commerce platform, you're really going to be ahead. SaaS platforms in particular are really strong in this area, enabling integrations and easily configurable connection points to those key digital channels in particular that you're likely to want to be seen through, right? Another little bonus here is that a quality platform also likely has baked in functionalities like SEO-focused URL structures, right? Page building tools, things that are actually going to make your brand's site easy to find, likely to rank high for relevant searches, things like that, okay? So that being said, as I mentioned, you want to be found anywhere that your customer is specifically searching, whether it's, again, through organic searches on Google or any plethora of marketplaces, all right? So your e-commerce platform or your mission control center, your core hub must support alignment with and integrations to those target channels. That's really the key takeaway, right? Is that, to quell the understandable overwhelm of all the places you can be, decide where should you be, and is your core commerce hub enabling ease of entry points into the places you should be. I'll also add this bit. This is actually in large part the basis of a fashion commerce focused guide that BigCommerce actually produced in Q4. It's called Catwalk to Cart. It's all about essentially insights we gathered from our own fashion merchants, from merchants who are selling on the BigCommerce platform, insights from those merchants paired with our own proprietary data and research to essentially put together a really nice editorial styled fashion magazine, if you will, but that is one that's all focused on enabling fashion sellers to be successful in this ever growing, ever dynamic e-commerce space. So that could be a useful read for some folks as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And this is something that you said you have on, like, it's accessible for all
it is, yeah, it's available right now. Yeah, Catwalk to Cart. If you go to our BigCommerce resource hub, for example, you can find it there on the website and the resource content section. But yeah, I recommend the piece. If you're actively selling in this space, I think there's probably something in that guide that could be useful and actionable. That's the key.
Okay. Yeah, I really like that you mentioned this project, because I guess another great value from SaaS and like technologies like the ones where we are working is the use of data, right? Like the ability not only to follow every transaction and every single like interaction internally or externally, right? Because we can like collect a lot of data from what's happening in-house with the like different departments working together and so on, and what's happening externally, as you just mentioned, Elizabeth, with the consumer. But what is really interesting about technology is this capability of offering insights, of offering something that goes like farther than the number or than the stat. But last year, we were like putting together like a report from Launchmetrics that was called the State of Measurement. It was in the month of June or July. And we basically interview like over 600 professionals from the fashion, luxury, and beauty industry, asking them like about like the measurement topic in general, like what are their challenges, how many tools they use on an average, what are the types of reports that they use the most or that they consider are more helpful for the day by day. And there is one stat that it was like, I mean, it appeared everywhere because it said that, of course, 98% of professionals are using like measurement tools, and they are tracking and they are measuring what they do. But 51% of them stated that they struggle reading data and extracting insights. So here we have another overwhelming situation. So when you have a lot of technologies, when you have, like you say, like Olivier, 91 technologies on average, you know that you have data everywhere, but how challenging it is to like use that data and essentially read the data to like impact in tangible things that you are like putting together on your day by day. So here's the question, Olivier, you mentioned the 91 tools. So I'm going to ask you, like, what's the key of like making a good use of data, and how can we, or how can brands, fashion brands, take advantage of this?
Thanks, Gina. And it is a great question because the challenge is huge for companies. We call it the 3V data challenge, you know, V for volume, variety, and velocity. Because the technology, of course, is, I mean, I'm stating the obvious. It's the only way to face that challenge, because now that brands have oceans of data, both unstructured and structured, coming out of, you know, an exponential number of touch points, as we mentioned before, you need to leverage tech to make sense of it all. Because data in itself has no value, right? Data has zero value. Even an insight, when you think about it, has zero value. You need data to transform into an insight, and that's what technology is here for. And then you need the people and process around the tech to make sure that that insight leads to a business decision, you know, an action that leads to business impact. And then when you have that business impact, the value is there. But this is why I think we can all relate to the 51% of marketeers that struggle, extracting insight out of data. It's because having that people, process, and tech harmony is very tricky. And it's of course, as we said, tech is not solving anything. It's not solving everything, sorry. It's really just the key enabler to compress, I would say, the time of data consolidation, data cleansing, and insights generation. So you can have that beautiful insights factory, and then you have to make it work so that insights are flowing freely within the organization to actually have an impact. But at least, saving time on making sense out of the data is so crucial. I was talking very recently to the VP of corporate communications of a large luxury brand hotel. And she told me what we have managed to achieve thanks to Sprinklr is to spend 90% of our time on the analysis of the reporting, not on building it. And of course, that was the before scenario. They were spending practically 90% of their time building reporting. So tech, enables you to get rid of that time and spend it on actual value-adding activities. So, to wrap up, you need tech to make sense of the data volume, variety, and velocity, and you need processes and people to ensure insights are really going into the right teams and feeding the decision process. Because and that's also what Sprinklr brings. You have all teams collaborating on the same platform, from brand, marketing, communications, PR, customer service, even agencies, both creative and media. So as a way to share insights, it's a great transformation accelerator. I'm going to give you a quick example. You have the luxury brand I was mentioning. Their media analysts, they have a real-time access to how the social ads campaign are run, how they're performing. So first, they know in real time if the assets that they have paid for are being used. And it's not always the case, as you probably know. They know at the granular market of the assets, which ones are performing, in which markets, on which channel, which format, which copy associated. So they can really take these insights and share them both with the creative teams, so they know what to stop producing, what to produce more, and with the agency who is executing the campaigns on how best to optimize their spend. And it's really about knowing what works best and what doesn't in real time and not after the events. That's crucial, because if you can produce less assets and achieve better results, that's the end goal. It's really our promise for marketeers is less quantity, more quality. And I think most of the audience here knows the average cost of producing one creative asset. It's pretty significant. So the business cases for this kind of transformation are very solid.
I really like that concept, like doing less but more quality. I guess it's probably I don't know in your case, guys, but at least from my experience, I feel that when everything started with like the online media, with social media and internet, like everyone wanted to go into this craziness of let's try everything, let's do everything. And now, I don't know what you think again, but after COVID, especially with this like lockdown, so hard lockdown that we had, where we had to think, okay, maybe this is not the right direction. I feel that companies are more into that mood of, okay, let's do less, but more quality, or more strategic, or more impactful in the objectives that we have, right? I don't know what you think, Elizabeth, about this concept, if it's like the same that you have with your like customers at BigCommerce. And
I think you're absolutely right that right now people are thinking more critically about investments. 100%, both the businesses, the consumers, everything has become more I guess, intentional in terms of the decisions we're making, especially purchase decisions. So I think everything you're saying is spot on. That's why it's even more important that businesses adopt all things personalization right? Knowing that people are going to be a lot more critical and a lot more methodical about what they're going to invest in, it's incumbent on the business to make that decision clear, easy, and actionable for that consumer who has a plethora of options, right? It's being more thoughtful about their investments. How are you going to be the brand that makes that conversion decision easy? There's a number of directions we can go there, but on the personalization topic, I think something that merchants and sellers really need to understand is that, personalization isn't necessarily just a matter of, thinking through, okay, how am I going to get them to opt in to hear more from me, or how am I going to overcome GDPR concerns or privacy? It's really about how are you going to deliver an experience that people have indicated they want to experience, right? By that, I mean, how are you going to maximize the fact that people are already making an active decision to interact with your brand by going to your website, by, engaging in what you're already presenting through the internet, all of those things, right? That's super important. So I think that people need to really get comfortable with, one, the topic of data, the idea of collecting data, but doing so in such a way that allows you to, again, create experiences for people who have indicated that they might want to have an experience with you. That's the big bit there. The good news for sellers and brands is that, per a study actually done by global consulting firm Accenture, 83% of consumers are willing to share their data to enable a personalized experience. 83% of users are willing to share their data in order to enable a personalized experience, right? So in other words, most people want you to optimize their time for them. I think it's really important, right? Especially for fashion and luxury sellers, things that maybe people can think, could I go without it? Probably, but that's also a cool way for me to express my identity and my preferences and all those things, right? How can you make it to where you're optimizing their time for them by increasing the likelihood that you're going to present something that really is suited to them, pun intended on that suited call out, okay, fashion. Something else I think is worth sharing is this excellent quote that I came across in an article actually produced by a personalization platform called BWO. The quote goes, "Personalization is the art of telling your visitors that they're valuable." I love that. Personalization is the art of telling your visitors that they're valuable. Okay, it almost makes it sound rude to not personalize when you put it that way. If you want to, again, thinking of the consumer, putting yourself in their brain, where everyone, ourselves included probably, right, are being very intentional in the purchase decisions we're making. I'm going to appreciate it when a brand makes it clear, makes it easy, takes the time to tailor an experience for me. That in and of itself is a demonstration of valuing a customer, right? Optimizing their time for them by presenting to them the things that, based on your thoughtful attention to their behaviors they're already displaying, right, is going to really be well matched for them. Yes, I'm just, again, as you can probably tell, I get really excited around this topic. I'm just going to share a couple more useful bits that I think that folks who are actively selling in the fashion commerce space could probably benefit from. So I think people can get on board with the idea of why it's important to personalize, why it's important to deliver, customized experiences for merchants. The big question is how, right? How do sellers actually do it? How do people actually take data and make something make sense of it as far as something that helps them deliver a personalized experience? So fundamentals, right? One, folks who have been maybe selling online for a while are probably not unfamiliar with this, but thinking through what your intention is. So if your intention is to convert site visitors into shoppers, think, what is the data that would be most useful to that aim? Right? It's going to be things like pages viewed, time on site, items added to a wish list. And of course, the golden one, items added to a cart. That's big, right? Those are behaviors that are freely taken by the visitor that are in themselves data and information points for that business. That's important. These are things that people are already doing on your site, but those actions themselves are data and information points that you can leverage, learn from, build experiences off of. Okay, Another bit that I'll call out is maximizing the ability to collect certain points of data in your opt-in or newsletter sign-up functions, right? If you have a newsletter or any sort of opt-in tool as part of your site experience, you can have your customers essentially opt into more personalization by doing a couple of things. Like, instead of just having them join the newsletter list, also ask them a couple of questions that help you understand exactly who they are a bit more, right? Things like their gender identification or their style preferences, things that can enable you to then curate emails you send, the things you feature for them, things like that are really, really useful. I think I'll pause there, Gina, because I feel like I've been going on a runaway train, but yeah.
No, but it's super interesting, and it perfectly connects with what Olivier was saying before. Like, at the end, using the insight to make a decision, to personalize like an experience, personalize like one action from the user that is like they have a need. And it's funny that you mentioned about GDPR. I was remembering in 2018 when it was implemented that all marketers, we thought that, oh my God, this is going to be the end of the world. Like, no one will want to give their permission for privacy policies and so on. And after that, I don't know, from the e-commerce perspective, from big commerce perspective, how you guys have lived that, but at least from our side, we saw how, as you say, like users, they really want an optimized experience. They, of course, like they care about their privacy and so on, but they also care about their time, right? And the time that we spend online on the internet, it's so much time that at the end of the day, you really want to find what you're looking for. You don't want like a lot of noise around, and it's perfect with what you say, like the concept of personalization, how important it is, especially for this like fashion e-commerce that have like millions, thousands of visits on their platforms, and obviously you want to adapt what you are offering to all of your users. So it's really interesting and really good. I would like to move like this personalization concept into the direction of like customer experience. Sorry. So some of the benefits of personalization that are mentioned in different like marketing and customer experience studies that I have been reading in the last few days. It's increasing visitor engagement, improvement of conversion rates, increasing customer acquisition. So I'd like to ask you, Olivier, like, would you have an example of a brand that has completely shifted their strategies to a more personalized one in the recent years using like MarTech solutions, using technology, and that have seen like an exponential growth following this shift?
Sure, I do. Yeah. I would like to talk to you about the example of L'Oréal. So you all know L'Oréal, and in 2020, so now it's a few years back, just before COVID hit, actually, Lubomira Rocher, who was the chief digital officer at the time, she set the group-wide objective and communicated about it in the press of becoming a 100% responsive company, meaning that brands of L'Oréal should answer to every engageable message that they receive on their available contact channels. Because she shared this belief very early on that conversations are the new marketing, and that actually for us customers, the frontier between marketing and customer service doesn't really exist, right? We are simply expecting brands to be open for conversations, whatever the intent. And right now, what we see and what L'Oréal saw as a great paradox is that within organizations, we have, on the one hand, a marketing department spending millions, for L'Oréal, maybe hundreds of millions, trying to attract the attention of consumers. And on the other hand, we have consumers who already have the attention of L'Oréal, who are trying to contact them on available channels, and who either do not receive an answer, or when they receive it, it's days later. So it's kind of too late. So the strategy behind that initiative is, I'm going to respond more, I'm going to respond faster, in a personalized way to my customers on their preferred channel. And when we say personalized, it's meaning we want to have relevance in the way we talk to them. And that's the strong lever for growth. As you mentioned, these CX studies, they show that it has an impact on the business. but it's not just to increase CX. We want to actually drive revenue, because a customer who is, customers satisfied with the experience that we offer them are going to spend more often, and to talk about it to their friends. So, of course, the challenge of communicating about it in the press is that you're actually going to do it. And for a group like L'Oréal, with more than 35 brands present globally, responding to every engageable message is kind of an impossible promise to keep without AI, unless you recruit, thousands of resources, which is not really the go-to strategy right now. So it's really what L'Oréal did, and what L'Oréal brands are really able to achieve now, leveraging Sprinklr, is to automatically sort every engageable message within all inbounds coming at them. They can automatically categorize these messages based on intent and assign and route them to the right stakeholders. So if I'm contacting one of L'Oréal brands trying to have advice on how to apply that particular makeup, I'm going to be directed to a beauty advisor. If I'm trying to track my order, my e-com order, it's directed to the e-com customer service. And if I want to buy a specific product, either to the sales team or I'm going to be redirected to the right product page of the right e-com website. So, to maybe almost 3 years down the line, L'Oréal today we're not going to share any number, but close to the objective of 100%, and is seeing very significant growth from this initiative.
Okay. No, this definitely sounds like a real good example. And as you say, like personalization can go into like many different aspects, and obviously like the customer experience is so important. Like that perception that you are like recording on your like users and your consumers is really important. I would like to jump into another topic that is connected and not connected. I mean, connected with what you mentioned about resources, is probably a bit more boring than the concept of creativity for personalizing and so on, but so important today, which is profitability. So we know that since the pandemic, and especially now with the economic crisis affecting all companies indifferently, profitability is key for any industry organization. It's not about like wasting like time, resources, money. It's about like saving all of that to get the best results. So of course, companies want to keep growing, but they want to do it in a more smart way and more efficient way, let's say. So now I would like to mention like a personal example from Launch Metrics. So the three of us, we work in technology companies, in SaaS companies, and we know that the challenge many times when you are like trying to convince one of your customers or prospects about investing in technology, and especially like cloud or central technologies that are like affecting or are involving like many different departments, it's very, very challenging to convince that customer of doing that first investment, right? Especially in the case of like medium or small size companies. But then the benefit that they could get on a mid and long term is so valuable at all levels. Just to give an example, and yesterday we had a session about this topic. One of our tools is for like sample management, for sample tracking. And that tool is the one that is probably like most challenging, because at the end of the day, it's involving like a lot of teams. You have like the PR team that is sending samples to external like journalists and influencers. Then you also have like, for example, the IT or the technology team that is making sure that everything is really seamless and that everything perfectly works internally. Then we have the finance team that is making sure that like all departments are not spending money, that they are like essentially using one single thing to do like a lot of different initiatives that are connected. And the challenge that we always have is like brands comes to us and they say like, yeah, but we are like tracking samples on an Excel, or we are tracking samples on a paper, even like sometimes our competitor is a paper. Is crazy. But it's really, really hard to explain them, hey, guys, we know that this is a big investment. We know that this is going to be like a big change for all departments in the way you are like operating. But in a mid long term, imagine how much time you're going to have to do other type of things, or how much like money your company is going to save. So there is a phrase or a sentence that we always love to say to our customers, which is focus on what really matters. Like that's like, at the end of the day, it's what we are trying to provide with technology, right? Facilitate the day by day of professionals so they can dedicate their time to something that only humans can do, which is think, reflect, create strategies, being creative. So here I go with my question to you, Elizabeth. What are, because I'm sure that you have some cases like this, what are the big commerce arguments, or in general, like the arguments to convince a company in the fashion retail sector that they need to invest and bet on technology?
Absolutely, Gina. And there's so many ways to tackle this, because it is a common, concern and challenge and opportunity that we absolutely come up against as well. And I think to make this as broadly accessible and useful as possible, I can say that it's quite simple: adapt or be left behind. What I mean by that is, to stay in business, you essentially have to be willing to adapt to how customers want to buy and interact with brands. It's truly that simple. It's in the best interest of a business to do that, to be adaptable. I think that it's often helpful to remember that there was a period of time when physical store merchants were hesitant to accept debit and credit cards when those were first introduced in the 60s and 70s. Those were kind of, the thing that made a lot of businesses go, what is this? I don't have the technology to accept this. Do I want this? This is a bit new for me. Of course, it sounds wild to think about that now, but that same kind of concept of being introduced to a new thing that is technologically driven, it being new does not mean that it's bad or wrong, but that perhaps that's your consumer saying, hey, I want to interact with you, and this is the way I can easily do that, right? That's it. That's the point at which the business needs to make a critical decision. Am I going to adapt in a manner that allows my consumer to interact with me and purchase from me in the way that they would prefer? I think that the refusal to adapt to how consumers want to buy and interact will equate with a decline in business. And I think that's just really simple math, right? If you're not catering to enough people who have indicated how they want to interact with you, you're saying, I guess I'm not going to serve that group of people, right? So really, when it comes to evaluating one's own hesitation around adopting technology or adapting to things that maybe are unfamiliar, really think of it through the lens of, could this enable me to access more of my target consumer? If so, if it's in line with me being able to achieve my critical intent as a business owner, maybe I should consider it and really think of the full picture, right? Irrespective of it being new or seemingly pricey or whatever it might be, thinking long-term, does this align with my critical goal of growing and sustaining a business? So I think that essentially investing in the right technologies for your business is no longer a bet in my mind, right? I think it's truly a conscious choice to be future-proof and accessible no matter what might come our way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like thinking in the potential you might have, right? Like where you could get by leveraging better like technology and all the possibilities that it's giving you. We are getting to the end of the conversation. I want to encourage everyone, if you guys have any questions, of course, you can participate. That's the objective of Performance Summit, to have you being part of this. So I'm here like reading. We already have like a couple of them. So I'd like to finish talking about one concept, which is AI and machine learning. I guess, and this question goes mainly for you, Olivier. I would like to talk about machine learning because it is something that we also do for launch metrics or metrics and brand monitoring like solutions. And machine learning, it's like every like certain time there is like one topic that everyone is talking about. Now it's metaverse, machine learning, and AI. And well, now we know that it has improved a lot the online shopping experience for brands in the recent years, thanks to AI-driven recommendations, sizing, pop-ups, and chatbots, for example. But I would like to ask you, Olivier, like, how are you seeing machine learning technology transform the work that marketers in the industry like do to stay relevant?
Sure, and it's really one of my favorite topic. You know, to summarize, basically what we see, the first trend, more and more brands are now taking on automation projects enabled by AI, enabled by machine learning. And it's not sexy, it's the basics, but you want to start with the basics. So a lot of activities like campaign or brand health monitoring, crisis monitoring, screening through product reviews, very time consuming. A lot of those activities can be automated through AI. And so really you want to leave, as you said, time to the analysis, to what really matters. The second trend that we're witnessing, which is really the most interesting to me, and I think to a lot of us, is brands that are more mature and that are taking on new projects where they want to reach new level of performance and insights through machine learning. They want to achieve things that simply would not be possible without AI. And this is really where the fun begins, right? So the way to differentiate is to do things that are not done elsewhere. Quick example, some of our clients are reaching a deeper level of insight on their creative assets. So they are not only analyzing performances at each campaign level, which is of course what we should all do. They're analyzing huge volumes of campaigns in batch and looking at every social media post, for instance, leveraging our AI to identify the content themes and the content tone of voice. So what the post is saying and how it's being said. And they're able to compare these volumes. They're able to compare what is produced and compare that to what works best. And usually you won't be surprised, it's not aligned. So cosmetic brand we work with was focusing its content on the scarcity of their offer. That was the theme. And the tone of voice implied urgency. What their analysis showed is that the posts that were highlighting the excellence of their product and using a more joyous and admiring tone performed significantly better. So they took that insight, they adapted their content creation strategy, and they were able to increase engagement rate by more than 50%.
Wow, that's impressive. And it's definitely super interesting. Like, again, how sometimes you're thinking this is working or this is not working, but at the end of the day, like that's the power of, as you say, like AI and the technology that it's provided today. So I would like to jump into some of the questions from the audience, so we can cover like some of them. I already have like 4 or 5 here. So, and then at the end, I have a little 1 million question for you, because I mean, we discuss about this. I always love to finish it that way, the panels. But let's jump into some of the questions that we got from the audience. There is one question that is quite interesting. It says, do you think the fashion industry is late on embracing MarTech or new technologies? And why do you think this is happening for this industry in particular? Who wants to?
I'll take a first crack at it. It is an interesting question indeed. I don't know if I would say that the fashion industry necessarily as a whole is late. I think there's certainly slow adopters in any industry, right? I think fashion, it being so textile and so rooted in a live physical experience, it wouldn't surprise me that many fashion retailers might be on maybe the slower end of new tech adoption. And I think the reason why is largely rooted to the industry's roots in more traditional ways of consuming products, right? That being said, I think irrespective of when a fashion retailer adopts technology. It's about making the decision to do so, right? It's about, once you do realize the tools before you and the opportunities before you to pivot and to reach more customers in the way they'd like to be reached, the people who are going to win at that point are the ones who do so quickly and continue to iterate, right? So I think if you're a brand who maybe feels like you have the opportunity to reassess your approach to technology or your view on it or how you're leveraging certain tools that are available to us in 2023, that is the perfect step, right? So now it's about responding to it and adapting and building on what you know at this point.
What do you think, Olivier, from your experience?
I'm if I take the lens of the luxury industry, definitely I would say that there were slow adopters of technology as a whole, because luxury is a demand creation business. So they create desire. If Rolex stops advertising in the next 5 years, they will still sell the watches, right? We're not worried about them. But I think that now the level of awareness of the importance of technology to stay relevant is at the right level within all industries. And luxury players are definitely fast followers if they were not the trendsetters, right?
Yeah. And I was thinking right now, like something that happened like a few years ago with the native players, like with those like medium-sized companies that jump in the like stage. And I was specifically thinking in the beauty industry. There were like a lot of like native players from the beauty sector that suddenly like became like the reference for big luxury houses that have been working for ages in the industry, and they were suddenly like replicating some of the things from the native players. So because they wanted to target like this younger like consumer and generation of consumers, and then second because they know that this is not the future, this is the today, this is the now. But yeah, it was really interesting, like this. And yeah, I definitely agree that it's probably like a slow adopters, but also it depends on the size of the company. There are like different situations. Obviously, like luxury is taking a bit more time. There's another question that comes from the audience that says, what is the ideal structure and roles for a small and medium company to implement new technologies? This is a difficult one.
Structure. That's a very, very good question. I think it starts with understanding the level of technology you feel prepared to take on. And when I say that, what I mean is, what is your team? How big is your team? Who are you working with? Who's going to be involved in the technological side of the business? Who do you have to support the digital kind of commerce tech piece of it, right? Are you in a position to be able to not only take on new structures of technology, but to be able to maximize the use of it and support it and all of that, right? So I think it starts with a very aware and clear understanding of where you are as a business and what type of technology you're prepared to be able to maximize, and then identifying the solutions that align to that, right? Whether if it's, obviously I'm coming from the e-commerce platform perspective, so it's going to be my natural kind of example that I think of, but really thinking of, what are your goals at this stage of growth? Firstly, right, are you in a place where you are wanting or needing to see more conversions through your own branded storefront, or are you still very marketplace dependent? And there's no right or wrong answer, but it's understanding where's your business coming from, where do you want it to come from, and then what's the platform or tools that best complement that. So certainly, two-pronged, understand where you are in terms of your team, staff, capabilities in your team, and then making the time to assess the breadth of technologies that are best suited to the stage that you're in as related to that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's true that sometimes when you're like a small team or a small company, you suddenly have like a team that is really proactive and it's like, let's take this, let's use this tool that I have here, it's amazing doing that, or this other one. And then at the end of the day, you don't have like no one can really like manage the tool or can really like take the full like potential of that tool. So yeah, that's a super interesting topic and important to consider, but because it's not about taking MarTech just because everyone is using MarTech. It's about taking it when you really need it and when you really can like leverage it, right?
Exactly. And I'll add, and you mentioned it earlier about focusing on what really matters, right? What really matters to your business and what are you really suited and set up to be able to effectively manage? Because the last thing you want to do is get so excited about the amazing technology out there that you do take on too much, and then that in and of itself becomes a problem, right? So being able to phase your way into it, again, being aware of where you are as a business and then filtering decisions really through that.
Good. Okay, we are getting to the end of this conversation, super interesting conversation. And here we go with the $1 million question that I always love to use to close like any panel. So we are starting 2023. And I would like that you guys like give to the audience, like in one sentence, what do you think is going to be key this new year for fashion and lifestyle companies to grow their business, to leverage MarTech? And I mean, how could you simplify in just one sentence? Who wants to go first? Olivier?
Sure. Yeah, my advice would be for brands to be open to conversations where their customers are spending their time, because conversations are the new marketing.
That's a very good one. Elizabeth?
That is good. I will go with become known for offering a seamless experience because people don't have time for anything else.
Okay, perfect. That's really good. Thank you so much. It has been like really, really interesting, insightful. Thank you again, Olivier, Elizabeth, for accepting Launchmetrics' invitation and being part of Performance Summit. We have more content for today, so stay tuned. Keep connected. And thank you so much, everyone. Thank you both for this insightful conversation.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, bye-bye.